Before you scroll, pause for just 1 second. What if the next voice you hear changes everything you believe about dreams, struggle, and hope? Stay with me till the end of this story, because what happens on that stage will leave you breathless. And if stories like this move your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps us bring more real, powerful stories to you. The night America's Got Talent opened its doors to auditions, no one in the massive theater noticed the small Filipino boy standing quietly near the back of the line. His name was Mateo Cruz, just 13 years old, thin from years of skipping meals, wearing a slightly oversized jacket that once belonged to his older cousin. His shoes were worn at the edges, dust from Manila's streets still clinging to them, as if the journey he'd traveled refused to let go. While others laughed nervously or practiced vocal runs, Mateo clutched a folded photo in his pocket, his mother smiling beside him years ago, before illness took her voice forever. Mateo grew up in a crowded neighborhood in Manila where dreams were often quieter than hunger. His days were split between helping his father sell snacks on the roadside and singing wherever people would listen, jeepneys, alleyways, street corners glowing under broken streetlights. Music wasn't a hobby for him, it was survival. When his mother fell sick, singing became the only way to distract her from pain. When she passed away, it became the only way Mateo knew how to breathe again. Every note he sang carried a memory, every lyric held a promise he once whispered to her, "One day, Ma, I'll sing so the world hears me." Getting to America was a miracle built from sacrifice. His father sold what little they had, borrowed money they didn't know how they'd repay, and trusted a dream that sounded impossible. On the flight, Mateo stared out the window at the clouds, wondering if his mother could see him now. Fear wrapped around his chest, fear of failing, fear of being laughed at, fear of returning home with nothing but broken hope. Yet somewhere beneath that fear was a quiet fire that refused to die. When Mateo finally stepped onto the AGT stage, the lights felt blinding. The judges looked down, curious but unconvinced. Simon leaned back with crossed arms. The audience whispered, "Another kid, another dream." Terry Cruz asked his name, and when Mateo spoke, his voice trembled slightly, not from weakness, but from the weight of everything he carried to that moment. He said he was from Manila. He said he sang on the streets. He said he was singing for his mother. The room softened, but skepticism still lingered. The music began, slow and gentle. Mateo closed his eyes. And then he sang. What came out of him didn't sound like a boy from the streets. It sounded like a lifetime of pain and hope woven into one voice. His tone was raw but pure, powerful yet fragile. Each note climbed higher, breaking through doubt, silencing whispers. People leaned forward. A judge's eyes widened. In the audience, someone wiped away tears they didn't expect to shed. When Mateo hit the chorus, his voice cracked, not because he missed the note, but because the emotion was too real to contain. It felt less like a performance and more like a confession. Halfway through the song, Simon's posture changed. The crossed arms fell away. He leaned in. Heidi pressed her hand to her chest. Sophia's eyes shimmered. The crowd erupted before the final note even faded. And when the song ended, there was a brief, sacred silence, the kind that happens when everyone needs a second to remember how to breathe. Then the applause exploded. Mateo stood frozen, unsure if it was real. His hands shook. Tears welled in his eyes as the judges spoke. They didn't talk about technique or strategy. They talked about truth. About courage. About how some voices don't just entertain, they heal. And then, in a moment Mateo would remember for the rest of his life, the golden buzzer was pressed. Gold confetti rained down like sunlight, and the boy from Manila's streets dropped to his knees, crying, laughing, whispering his mother's name into the noise. That night didn't erase his struggles, but it changed his path forever. Mateo didn't just shock AGT, he reminded the world that greatness can come from anywhere, that pain can turn into power, and that even the smallest voice can echo across the world if it sings from the heart. So if you're watching this with a dream buried inside you, remember Mateo. Remember that streets can lead to stages, and broken beginnings can lead to golden endings. If this story inspired you even a little, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Because sometimes, one story is all it takes to believe again. Microphone sparkles, stop scrolling for a second, you're about to witness something that will make your jaw drop and your heart soar. Imagine a boy so small, yet so full of dreams, standing in front of millions, ready to prove that nothing can stop a voice born from the streets. Trust me, you'll want to watch until the very end, and if this story moves you, hit that like button and subscribe, because stories like this deserve to be shared. Mateo Cruz was just 13, a skinny boy from the bustling streets of Manila. His hair was messy, his jacket a hand-me-down, his shoes patched and worn. But what he carried inside him, hope, determination, and an unshakable love for his mother, made him feel larger than any stage could contain. Life hadn't been easy. From the moment his mother fell ill, Mateo's days were a balancing act between school, helping his father sell snacks on the busy streets, and singing to her in the quiet moments when no one was listening. Music wasn't a hobby, it was a lifeline, the only way he could keep sadness from swallowing him whole. Traveling to America for AGT felt like stepping into another universe. Mateo held tight to a crumpled photo of his mother, whispering promises only she could hear. Fear gripped him, fear of failure, fear of ridicule, fear of letting down the person he loved most. Yet beneath that fear burned a quiet fire, a voice that refused to stay silent, a heart that refused to give up. When he walked onto the stage, the audience barely noticed him at first. The judges, used to polished performers and rehearsed acts, looked skeptical. Simon leaned back in his chair, Heidi raised an eyebrow, and Sophia smiled politely, waiting to be impressed. Mateo's hands shook slightly as he introduced himself, saying he was from Manila and singing for his mother. The room was polite, but doubtful. Then he started to sing. At first, the notes were soft, tentative, like a whisper brushing against the ears of the audience. But soon, the power in his voice grew, carrying every ounce of his struggle, every tear he had ever cried, every dream he had ever dared to dream. People leaned forward in their seats. Judges stopped writing notes and just listened. His voice was raw, full of emotion, a perfect mix of fragility and strength. When he hit the high notes, it wasn't just technical skill, it was the story of a life lived with hardship, love, and hope. By the final chorus, the audience was on its feet. Judges were wiping away tears. And when the last note echoed and faded, a sacred silence filled the room. Then came the golden buzzer. Gold confetti rained down like sunlight breaking through clouds, and Mateo fell to his knees, laughing and crying all at once, whispering his mother's name. He had done it. The boy from the streets of Manila had turned his pain into power and his dreams into reality. That moment didn't erase his struggles, but it proved that courage, passion, and love could overcome any obstacle. Mateo's story is a reminder to anyone who's ever doubted themselves: your beginnings don't define your ending. Your struggles don't limit your dreams. And even the smallest voice, when sung with a full heart, can echo across the world. So if Mateo's journey inspired you, click like, subscribe, and share this video, because everyone deserves to feel the power of hope and the magic of believing in themselves. Stop everything you're doing and imagine this: a small boy, barefoot on the streets of Manila, holding nothing but a dream and a photo of the mother he lost. He's about to step onto the world's biggest stage, and what he's about to do will leave millions speechless. Watch until the end, and don't forget to like and subscribe, because this isn't just a story, it's a reminder that miracles happen when hope refuses to give up. Mateo Cruz was just 13, with eyes too old for his face and a heart bigger than his small frame. Growing up in a crowded Manila neighborhood, life wasn't easy. His father worked long hours selling snacks on the roadside, and his mother had been the melody in his life until sickness stole her voice forever. Music became Mateo's escape, his way of holding onto memories, his method of speaking when words failed. Every song he sang in the crowded alleys and noisy jeepneys carried fragments of his mother's laughter, her lessons, and the love that even death couldn't erase. Traveling to America for AGT felt impossible, like a dream too big for reality. Mateo clutched a photo of his mother as he waited backstage, trembling under the bright lights and the endless gaze of judges and cameras. Fear tried to take him over: fear of failing, of being laughed at, of returning home with empty hands. But beneath the fear was a spark, quiet yet unbreakable. He had promised his mother that he would sing until the world listened, and tonight, that promise was about to be tested. The moment Mateo stepped on stage, the audience barely noticed him at first. He was small, unassuming, almost invisible in the sea of performers. Simon leaned back, skeptical as always. Heidi's smile was polite but measured, and Sophia's eyes searched for the spark that would make her care. Mateo introduced himself softly, saying he was from Manila, that he sang for his mother, that this song carried his life in every note. A polite silence followed, tinged with doubt. Then he sang. The first notes were soft, almost fragile, but there was something magnetic about them. Each word trembled with raw emotion, each high note carried years of struggle, loss, and hope. The audience leaned forward. Judges paused, pens frozen mid-air. Mateo's voice didn't just fill the room, it filled hearts. It was a voice that spoke of hunger and heartbreak, of courage and resilience, of dreams bigger than fear. By the time the chorus hit, the theater erupted into gasps, and tears ran freely down the cheeks of those who hadn't expected to feel so deeply. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and real resonated more than perfection ever could. When the last note faded, the silence hung heavy for a heartbeat before the audience erupted. The golden buzzer shone bright. Gold confetti rained down like sunlight, and Mateo fell to his knees, crying, laughing, whispering his mother's name. The boy from Manila's streets had done it, he had transformed years of pain into a moment of triumph that no one could ever forget. Mateo's story reminds us that beginnings don't define endings. That struggles can be transformed into strength, and dreams can be achieved when hope is relentless. It tells every child, every dreamer, every quiet soul, your voice matters, your story matters, and miracles can come from the most unexpected places. So if Mateo's journey moved you, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video. Because hope is contagious, and the world needs stories like this to remind us all that even the smallest voice can echo across the world. Stop scrolling right now. Because in the next few minutes, you're about to witness something that will make your heart race, your eyes water, and your belief in dreams explode. A boy from the streets of Manila is about to step on the world's biggest stage, and what happens next will shock you. Watch till the end, and if this story touches you, hit like and subscribe, because this is the kind of story the world needs to see. Mateo Cruz was just 13, but life had already made him older than his years. His clothes were worn, his shoes scuffed from endless days on the hot streets of Manila. By day, he helped his father sell snacks to passers-by. By night, he sang wherever he could, sometimes in the glow of streetlights, sometimes on crowded jeepneys, hoping someone would notice. Singing was more than a talent, it was a lifeline. After his mother passed away from illness, music became his way of keeping her memory alive. Every song was a message, every note a promise. I won't let you be forgotten, Ma. Reaching AGT in America felt like stepping into a dream so big it could swallow him whole. Backstage, he clutched a faded photo of his mother and tried to steady his shaking hands. Fear tried to take over, fear of failing, fear of being laughed at, fear of losing everything he had sacrificed to get here. But beneath the fear was a fire, quiet but unrelenting, a fire that had survived hunger, grief, and endless nights of doubt. When Mateo walked onto the stage, the crowd barely noticed him. He was small, unassuming, almost invisible compared to the flashing lights and polished performers. Simon leaned back, skeptical as ever. Heidi and Sophia waited for something extraordinary, but their faces held polite doubt. Mateo spoke softly, introducing himself as a boy from Manila singing for his mother. There was a hush, a pause, the kind of silence that holds its breath, waiting to see if magic would come. And then he sang. The first note was soft, almost fragile. But it carried a weight, a history. Every word was filled with grief, hope, and courage. His voice climbed and soared, filling the theater with emotion so raw that the audience leaned forward, unable to look away. Simon's arms dropped, Heidi's hand went to her chest, and Sophia's eyes shimmered with tears. Mateo didn't just sing a song, he sang his life, his struggles, his dreams, his love, and his pain. By the final chorus, the room was shaking with applause and emotion. Then came the golden buzzer. Confetti rained down like golden rain, and Mateo fell to his knees, laughing, crying, whispering his mother's name. In that moment, the boy from Manila's streets had shown the world that courage and passion can overcome even the harshest beginnings. He hadn't just performed, he had inspired millions. Mateo's story is a reminder to all of us, it doesn't matter where you start. Pain can turn into power, loss into motivation, and small voices can echo across the world if they speak from the heart. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it because hope spreads, and every dream deserves a stage. Pause for a second and imagine this: a boy no bigger than a backpack, standing in a massive theater, about to sing a song that carries a lifetime of struggle. What happens next will leave you speechless. Watch closely, and if it touches your heart, like the video and subscribe, because stories like this remind us why dreams matter. Mateo Cruz grew up in the crowded streets of Manila, where hope was fragile and hunger was constant. He was 13, small and wiry, with shoes too thin for the miles he walked, and a jacket that had seen better days. Life had already taught him loss. His mother had fallen ill when he was very young, and even after her passing, her presence lingered in every corner of his life. Music became his sanctuary. Mateo would sing on street corners, in the back of jeepneys, anywhere people would listen. Every note he sang was a message to his mother: "I'm still here. I'll make you proud." Getting to America was a miracle born of sacrifice. His father had worked tirelessly, borrowing money they didn't have, taking every risk to give Mateo this chance. When he arrived at the AGT audition, the theater felt impossibly huge. The bright lights were blinding, the cameras intimidating. Fear pressed on him like the humid Manila streets he had left behind, but beneath it, a spark burned. He had promised his mother that he would sing for her, no matter what. When Mateo stepped onto the stage, the judges barely noticed him at first. Simon looked skeptical, Heidi polite but unsure, Sophia waiting to be impressed. Mateo introduced himself softly, saying he was from Manila, that he sang for his mother, and that he wanted the world to hear his story. A hush fell over the audience, a pause heavy with anticipation. Then he opened his mouth to sing. At first, the notes were quiet, almost fragile, but soon his voice grew, soaring with a clarity and emotion that caught everyone off guard. It was raw, unpolished, real, a voice that told of hunger, of grief, of hope, of dreams bigger than fear. The judges leaned in. The audience sat forward, mesmerized. Mateo's singing was more than music, it was a story, a confession, a plea. By the final chorus, the room erupted in applause, tears flowing freely, hearts captured by the truth in his voice. And then, the golden buzzer. Gold confetti rained down, and Mateo dropped to his knees, laughing, crying, whispering his mother's name into the chaos. He had done it. The boy from Manila's streets had turned years of pain into a moment of triumph that would live forever. Mateo didn't just shock AGT, he inspired millions, showing the world that courage and heart matter more than polish or fame. Mateo's journey reminds us that no matter where you start, your story matters. Your struggles can fuel your dreams. Your voice, no matter how small, can reach the world if you sing it with all your heart. If Mateo's story inspired you, hit like, subscribe, and share this video because hope is contagious, and every dream deserves a stage. Stop scrolling for just 1 second. Imagine a boy, barely 13, standing on the biggest stage in the world, about to sing a song that carries every ounce of his pain, his hope, and his dreams. What you're about to see will shock you, move you, and maybe even make you believe in miracles again. Watch until the very end, and don't forget to like and subscribe, because stories like this need to be shared. Mateo Cruz grew up in the crowded streets of Manila, where life was loud, messy, and unforgiving. He was small, wiry, with worn shoes and a jacket too big for him. But inside, he carried a voice that no street, no hardship, no loss could ever silence. His mother had been his first audience, singing softly to him as he slept, teaching him the power of music. When illness took her from him, Mateo sang to keep her memory alive. He sang on street corners, in packed jeepneys, anywhere people would listen. Every note he hit carried a piece of his heart, a promise to his mother that he would never give up, that one day, the world would hear him. Reaching America to audition for AGT felt like stepping into a dream too big to hold. Backstage, he clutched a faded photograph of his mother, his hands trembling, his stomach full of butterflies. Fear whispered in his ear, fear of failing, of being laughed at, of losing the only chance he had. But Mateo had something stronger than fear, a fire that refused to be extinguished, fueled by every struggle he had ever endured. When he walked onto the stage, the audience barely noticed him at first. He was small, quiet, almost invisible. Simon leaned back skeptically, Heidi gave a polite smile, Sophia's eyes were curious but cautious. Mateo took a deep breath and introduced himself, saying he was from Manila, singing for his mother, and carrying a lifetime of dreams in his voice. The room grew silent, the kind of silence that makes your heart beat faster, waiting for magic to happen. And then he sang. The first notes were soft, trembling with vulnerability. But soon, his voice grew, soaring across the theater, carrying every story of hunger, of grief, of love, and of hope. The audience leaned in. Simon's crossed arms dropped. Heidi's hand pressed to her chest. Sophia's eyes glistened. Mateo's singing wasn't just a performance, it was a confession, a story, a lifeline. Every high note reached further, touching hearts, stirring emotions. By the final chorus, tears streamed freely, applause erupted, and the room shook with awe. Then, the moment that would change everything, the golden buzzer. Gold confetti fell like sunlight breaking through clouds, and Mateo collapsed to his knees, crying, laughing, whispering his mother's name into the noise. The boy from the streets of Manila had done it, he had transformed years of struggle into a triumph that no one could forget. Mateo didn't just shock AGT, he reminded the world that courage, heart, and authenticity matter more than polish or fame. His story is a reminder for anyone who's ever doubted themselves. It doesn't matter where you start, what you've lost, or how small you feel. Dreams can take root in the harshest places, pain can be turned into power, and the smallest voice, when sung from the heart, can echo across the world. If Mateo's story inspired you, hit like, subscribe, and share this video because hope is contagious, and every dream deserves a stage.